If you're looking to dominate the adult industry this year, you need to be attending adult industry expos, conferences, and events. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know before jumping into your very first one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that when you're attending adult industry events, there's two different kinds. So there's your B2B events and then there's your B2C events. So when you're considering B2B events, you should be thinking about events like Expos, for example, where it's business to business. This is where creators can talk and network with executives. This is where you're going to have educational seminars, panels, things that you can learn from and take away with that you can then implement and improve your adult business. Now, when we're talking about B2C events, these are going to be your AVNs, your Exoticas, your X3s. B2C, business to consumer events, are where creators are going to get to mingle and get exposure to fans. So B2C, think business to consumer, creator to fan, and B2B, think business to business, so creator to other executives, creators to other companies. Knowing the difference in what kind of conference you're attending is very important. Because if you're attending a B2B event, you're going to have a very different set of goals than if you're attending a B2C event. So let's just set out some imaginary goals for a B2B event. If I was going to a B2B event, something like Expos LA, for example, I might have the goal of networking with other executives or platform owners to be a brand ambassador for their platform, product, or service. Now, if I was attending a B2C event, something like an AVN or an Exotica, I might have a different goal about getting more exposure to fans and getting more subscribers on my OnlyFans. So you need to go into all of these conferences with a very intentional and specific goal in mind. Otherwise, you're very likely to walk away from the conference not getting anything out of it. This is why I want to really drive down on the idea that you should have a goal in mind ahead of attending any conference or events. Okay, so let's get into the tips and strategies for attending a B2B event. So the first thing I want to talk about when you're going to a B2B event, especially if you've never gone to one before, you've never been to Expos, you've never been to some of these executive networking events or a TES or any of these kinds of conferences, the first thing you want to do is attend the mixers or the speed networking that happens. This is really good because you're going to go very quickly through a lot of company executives, a lot of platform owners, a lot of service providers. You're going to get to meet them under a very quick paced environment. And then you're going to be able to take notes on who you want to talk to more, who might help you get to your goal, who do you want to spend more time with in other events later on in the conference. So these speed networking events or these mixers, this is a great way to kind of like zone in on your hit list of who you want to spend more time with. Now, once you have that hit list, so to speak of, you can then search out those people when you're doing other networking or other events later at the show. So whether you're attending the evening event at, the party, whatever the party is, or if there's a dinner event, you can kind of position yourself to get into conversations with these people that you want to spend more time with, or to maybe sit next to them at the dinner. This is like kind of where the networking comes into play and where you can be really strategic on how you spend your time. Another general tip that I want to give you about B2B events is that almost all of the best networking happens around the hotel bar. This never fails me. I've made my best connections and my best relationships around the hotel bar. So if you maybe can't attend a mixer or you haven't had time to attend different seminars and workshops, always head to the bar and spend time there at the end of the night just talking with other people at the conference. You're going to find that some of your best relationships get formed there. Another tip that I want to make sure I mention about B2B events is when you're getting their information. So say you're getting their contact, whether that's a Telegram username, whether that's a text message, whether that's an email, always take a selfie with whoever you're having conversations with and exchanging contact info with, and then send it to them at that contact. So if I'm chatting someone up at a B2B event, an executive or a platform owner, and I know that I want to carry on this conversation, I know that there's a valuable, mutually beneficial relationship to be had here, I'll say, hey, when we exchange information, let's take a selfie so I remember this conversation when I open up that message. And they're almost always going to say, yeah. You take the selfie with them, you text it to them or telegram it to them, email it to them, whatever. This way, later on after the conference, when all of the dust has settled, they're going to open up that message and see your face and remember the conversation you had or the impression that you left them with. This selfie trick is really, really useful, and it goes a long way for getting them to follow up with you after the fact. This other tip has to do with follow-up as well. If you get the opportunity when talking to some of these executives at a B2B event, try to set the next meeting before even leaving that conversation or before leaving the conference. If you can get a meeting with them on their calendar and on yours before the conference is over, there's going to be a much higher likelihood that they'll make and attend that meeting, and you will get closer to whatever that goal might be. So for me, I always try to get something on the calendar before I even leave the conversation. It's really useful, and it helps your conversions and your close rates for whatever you're selling or whatever relationship you're trying to build. Okay, and then my last but very important B2B conference attendance tip is going to be professional. Don't get too intoxicated. Don't get to a point where you feel you're not being professional. You have to remember that you don't often get a second chance at a first impression. And this applies to creators and executives alike. But you never want to be seen as unprofessional at these events, because you might not get another opportunity to change that impression on someone. So I do want to leave you with that before getting into all of our B2C conference tips. So for our first B2C conference tip, again, I would say be very, very intentional with whatever your goal is going to be. Obviously, for me, when I'm attending something B2C, the goal is always to get more fans to my platform. So usually I will drive them or have a link ready for them, but I have a goal in going to that conference or going to that expo. You don't want to go aimlessly. You don't want to go in hopes that something will happen. You'll end up leaving that conference wondering if it was worth the time or the investment that you put into it. So again, have that clear goal. Something else I want to say is don't worry if you're a new creator. It is okay to go to a conference and not have a line wrapped around the booth of people waiting to take photos or get autographs from you. If you're a new creator, that is not where you're at in your career, but that doesn't mean that you can't get value out of attending a B2C conference. When you're a new creator, the value you get out of attending a B2C conference is by trying to stop as many fans that walk past your booth and introduce who you are to them. Get them to take interest in you. Get them to follow you on social media. And then you can convert them to a paying subscriber or spender later. But the core value in being there is to be seen. It's the exposure to the fans that are going to be attending, that are maybe attending for some massive big creator. But they're going to walk past you in your booth, and that is the opportunity to say, "Hi, I'm Morose. What's your name? What are you doing here? Who did you come to see? What kind of creators do you like? What kind of content do you like? Oh, I actually make stuff like that. Yeah, here's my QR code." So you can capture fans, because the reality of these conferences, and I think a lot of new creators don't realize this, is that those big creators, the Riley Reids of the world, they're very unattainable at conferences. They're going to have huge lines. Fans are going to get maybe a couple seconds or minutes to take photos with them and spend time with them, and then it's on to the next one in line. Whereas smaller creators have the advantage of like, hey, let's have a conversation. Tell me what you're into. I've got some time, So when you have that kind of gift, to be honest, you can capitalize on it as a creator. So when a fan's walking past, capture their attention. At the least, get them to follow you on social media, and at the most, get them to your platform or to your Linktree or what have you. The idea of going to a conference when you're a new creator is to capture and get exposure to fans. Another tip if you're attending a B2C conference for the first time is to get a really nice pop-up banner made so that you stand out at your booth. It's very easy to fall into the background at a conference. There's so much going on. There's so much noise. There's so much lights. There's so much talent. There's so much everything. So the more you can do to stand out, either in your pop-up banner, in the way you present yourself, the look, the lingerie you're wearing, what have you, the better chance you are to have people stop as they walk by. So definitely try to stand out if you can. Now, I've kind of mentioned this next tip a little bit already, but you want to have some kind of QR code for fans to scan with their phones. Now, there is the old school approach of doing this with business cards. You can absolutely do this with business cards, but business cards, they tend to get lost, they tend to get ruined, they tend to get thrown away. So I prefer the QR code approach, because a fan always has their phone out. Usually there's phones all the time out at these things, because everyone's taking pictures and filming. So their phone is already going to be out. They can scan your QR, go right to your platform, and subscribe for free. I would always suggest your QR code leads to a free subscription. This way you have them on the platform. If they're subscribed, they're reachable. You can DM them now. You can send them mass DMs now. This is really important. If you have your QR code going to a paid platform, they're very unlikely not going to subscribe in the moment. It feels too high pressure. This is why I suggest to quickly get them on your social media or use a QR code that takes them to a free page. If you want to get really, really good at conferences, and this is the pro tip, so I'm glad you're still with me. The pro tip is to have your QR code use a tracking link so that you can actually measure the ROI of attending a conference. So this is how you do that. When you create your tracking link on OnlyFans or whatever platform you're using, you're going to create that specific tracking link and then Google how to create a QR code or QR code generator, and a website will pop up, and all you have to do is copy that URL that's a tracking link, paste it, have it generate you a QR code, and now you have a QR code that goes through that tracking link. It's very easy to do and it's very useful. When you have a QR code doing that specific to a tracking link, what this tells you is how many people clicked on that link. Well, clicks is scans. So how many people scanned the QR code, clicked on that link, and how many of those people converted into paying subscribers. And then you can even click on those individual subscribers that you've captured and see how much money they spent on you. This is the only way for you to calculate the actual direct ROI from attending a B2C conference to the revenue you made as a result. If you aren't doing this, if you aren't taking this advice and following this pro tip, you don't have any practical, evidence-based, data-driven, anything-based reality to tell you if attending that B2C conference was worthwhile for you as a creator, if the investment in going and spending the time made any sense for you. So if you do one thing, or if you take one tip from this entire video, get a tracking link, link it to a QR code, and then you can download it, you can print it out, have it available at your booth to scan. You can put it as your wallpaper on your phone and just have fans scan your phone wallpaper. That's usually what I do. But make sure you have a tracking link. This way you can start to collect some data so that you can approach these B2C conferences a lot more like an entrepreneur and a professional content creator. Another tip I have is, yes, you can sell things at B2C conferences. Creators tend to sell merch like t-shirts, hats, stickers, things like that. And some creators will actually sell the ability to take a photo with them or make a video for the fan. Now, when you're selling things at these conferences, a lot of the creators opt to keep the money in their purse or in a bag under their booth. So usually the booths are covered with some kind of fabric, and you can hide that stuff away under the booth. Now, keeping that in mind, if you can take the time to purchase some kind of locking zip bag that is ideal for handling cash, or you can do the Venmo or Cash App thing in person, that goes a long way too. But if you're gonna have cash on you, just make sure to be discreet about it. You don't wanna be rifling through dollar bills very publicly. You want to take the appropriate measures so that you don't get targeted or stolen from at these conferences. There's a lot of people walking around, and we can't always promise they're good people or good actors. This leads me to my last and final tip, and this is also similar to the one I mentioned about the B2B conferences, and that is to consider, if you are drinking, to try to maintain a relatively clear mind, even at or especially at B2C conferences. You have to remember that a lot of the fans are also drinking as well. Either they came having already been drinking, or they're purchasing alcohol at the venue. So you're dealing a lot of times with semi-intoxicated or very intoxicated fans, and you want to make sure that your safety is priority. So because we can't typically count on the fan base to be sober, it usually is a good move if you are. So consider this. And then the other part of that is, don't accept drinks from fans. What I have to do for fans is, if they want to buy me a drink, I ask them to give me the cash instead. And I say, I'll go pick up the drink myself when I take my next break. Thank you. Really appreciate you, and all the rest. So again, keep a clear head, try to stay on your toes, keep your wits about you. This is really important. You are a professional creator, you're in the public eye, and that makes you a very easy target where people had access to you. Now, the final thing I want to mention before wrapping up this video is, if you've never attended a conference and this is your first one, don't be afraid. I was so scared at my first conference. I remember not knowing anyone. I felt like a fish out of water. It was very overwhelming. I didn't know who to talk to. I found myself hiding away in the hotel room most of the time. And it was just very scary. The first thing I want to say is, if you're watching this, you can always find me. Like, I attend all the conferences. I'm there. I'm your friend. So look for the redhead, look for Melrose, if nothing else. You have a friend in me. The second thing I want to say is if you're inside our CEO Society, like our closed community for creators, the link's in the description, that is a free closed private community for creators. And we always talk about who's attending Expos, AVN, Exotica, whatever, ahead of the fact. So you can actually link up with creators inside CEO Society and then have like buddies when you arrive at the event, so you're never going in alone. So you also have that available to you. If you're not a part of CEO Society, now is a great time to join. Again, free, closed community, super safe, and there's a lot of resources and tools in there for you as well. Then lastly, just know that you're not the only one. When you're new at these events, so are so many other people. So many other people are afraid to say hello. They're so uncomfortable reaching out and like, hi, I'm so-and-so. And that's a scary feeling. I really love the advice from Mel Robbins, which is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do the scary thing. I am not the most extroverted person. I feel like I'm kind of an ambivert. I can go between extrovert and introvert depending on my energy levels. But when I'm at these conferences, I have a goal in mind. I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm there to see. And I want to meet as many creators as humanly possible. That's always my goal, no matter if it's B2B or B2C. So I really had to overcome the fear of walking up and introducing myself to someone, because that fear is hindering the whole reason I attended. It's hindering the money I spent to get there. It's not worthwhile to miss the opportunity just because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what people are going to think of me, or I'm afraid that they're going to judge me for what I'm wearing, or I'm afraid of all the other things that run through your head. But the other creator, the other person that you're shaking hands with is afraid of the same things. And knowing that really helps me to overcome that fear. And then using that trick of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do the scary thing, that helps a lot too. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. I would love if you clicked subscribe, like the video, turn on notifications, and hit that bell if you wouldn't mind. If you aren't already familiar, we did launch a product called GPTs.ai. That's GPTEASE.ai. And it is basically a ChatGPT for adult creators. So whether you need it to help you caption things on social, help you write copy for locked PPVs to increase, unlock rates, to write video scripts, whatever you need, our GPT's AI can help you do it. And it's free to use. So that's going to be linked in the description of the video as well. And I think that wraps up for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you'll be tuning in for future courses. We have a lot coming up this year. I want to help you as much as humanly possible. And I made a very big commitment to doing so. So I'm Rose Michaels. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.